Hey guys, today's finance video was recorded live on stream, and there was a little bit of noise because I had to, I had to deal with kids. I'm very, very sorry. However, the information is A+. It's great. If you're looking for the type of information based on the finance world of the week to week and even honestly day to day forum of the financial aspect, Scott and I are monitoring it almost by the hour, if I'm being completely honest. I hope this video can truly help you and you can succeed and understand really why the things in Disney Lorcana are happening, and even so rapidly that it's almost insane. Enjoy today's video. I'll catch you in the end. Understanding TCG Player Marketplace. And I think this is a really interesting topic. Scott is really the head of this. I'm here to ask questions or fill in with chat questions. But there's some really unique things that I have been able to notice this week now that I've been really paying attention to things more. But I'm going to pass it to Scott. Scott, give me a little understanding of what this slide is telling us here.
So I think what people don't understand is, and I think when you take TCG player pricing and you talk about it in a more public setting, like in Facebook groups or on Discords or things like that, people always quote this price here, the top price. They say the low price for this card is $13. I just chose the first card because it's easy and because it has a lot of decent variety in a whole new world. So, but the problem is this price is unrealistic for multiple reasons. So if you look in the top right corner, what you see is this seller, and I'm not dissing on this seller at all. Like, trust me. I mean, this is still a gold star seller, so we'll get to that in a second. But they only have one in stock, which means that's going to sell out to the first person that wants a whole new world, and then immediately we're going to go down to the second one. Now, if you look at the second one, he has a 0% rating and under 100 sales. Next one, 100% rating for only 111 sales. All these people only have one of each card. So if someone wants a play set, the first four are going to be bought out, and we're immediately at the fifth person who has no sales and a 0% rating. So are you going to buy from that person? Like, maybe. But the thing to understand about him is at 14.18, because I know he has 0 sales, I know what level of seller he is. That 99-cent shipping is on every single card, which means the real price of that card is actually $15.17. So again, when you were in a Facebook group or in a Discord where someone said a whole new world is going for $13.79, you're never going to be able to get at that price. The realistic price for it is almost $2 more than that. So you just have to be aware that what you're seeing quoted as actual prices of cards, they're actually much higher than that. Because, and I say this as someone that sells cards, I price myself where I think that it's lower for players to get, but higher than the absolute minimum. And they move like hotcakes. And because happens, buy them, and the prices the inventory just disappears.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing volumes on there of like, I mean, no one on this until you get all the way down to the second to last one.
There's 4.
Somebody that has more than one card.
Right.
So, I mean, that's more realistic of what the actual price is, in my opinion, is when somebody actually has more than one of the cards. So, I feel like quoting the low as like, look at what's happening in the market, like all this, it's not indicative of what actually the market looks like.
Thanks, Matt.
So, I mean, I do find charts like this, like the price charts, to be very effective. The reason why you're seeing such a giant slope is because the pre-sale prices were just insane,
right? Especially
super rares. And I know, like I said, as I've said many times, as soon as cards came out, the prices just went way down. But you just have to understand who you're buying and how many you're actually going to be able to buy at any one time.
So talk to me about the short-term dump versus building the brand. It's one of your headline topics of this.
So, and in my opinion, without getting into too much detail, because I could talk about this for a while and probably through an entire series. If you guys are actually interested, please let me know.
Yeah, put this up.
There are different levels of sellers for TCG Player. So until you hit seller level 4, you're essentially just like a seller in waiting, or like attempting to become like a real seller. And there's certain thresholds you need to meet each time. So I think you need literally only 2 sales to complete level 2. then like 10 sales to reach level 3, and then like 50 sales to reach level 40. That sounds not hard, but it's harder than you think because the sales actually delivered, you have to get feedback, etc. A lot of these people that are on there now are trying to establish themselves as sellers.
Right.
So they're trying to get rating. They're trying to capitalize on selling a product they know is absolutely going to sell. So they're pricing things extremely low in order to get a sale, which they need to move on. Also, you have people that won prizes over the weekend, or you have people that are just like, I mean, there are people out there that are not actually going to play the game, that are literally just going to, they see it as a hot topic or a hot commodity, and they buy it, and they're immediately going to turn around and sell it. They're not in it for the long term, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it does reduce the market. And a lot of these people that are only listing one of a card, again, keep in mind, there's no restock that's going to happen until September 1st. And any of these people that have cards listed, even on September 1st, you have to run to all these different stores to even get that.
To hope that it's there, etc.
They're going to sell out of whatever they have, and they're not going to be back. And I mean, I could give you the ups and downs of why are they even bothering to be on TCG Player as opposed to somewhere like eBay. But the bottom line is a lot of these people are what is reducing the market down to the levels that it was. That's why you see really low legendaries. That's why you see really low super rares, etc. Because people are like, I mean, even if they paid over MSRP for a pack, if you open a whole new world, you're making double the price of whatever you just paid for the pack. So they're more than happy to get that price, and I don't blame them because they're able to sell the rest of the pack and probably more than doubly profit on a pack. You can't really argue with that. I can't really argue with the hotness that is Lorcana for them to make money. I can just tell you that like they don't have a lot of sales. Again, I'm not dissing on them. They're not gold star sellers. They're just, the prices are just going down because people want to get in on something that's hot and they don't want to be stuck with it, and they'll move on to another game. Or they may just be a whole new seller and they're trying to get rating, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's a combination of these things that is what drove down the market from August 18th basically to where we are now. But now a lot of those people are just out of product. I mean, I took this screenshot this afternoon. Chances are that person doesn't have any more in stock. I can tell you that because I've already sold multiples of these today. And as you said, I put this stuff up an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that it didn't sell at $13.79.
No.
So I guarantee you that there's other people that a lot of those people that have one of are sold out already.
Sure.
So does that exist in the world? That's the question.
Yeah. So I think you just covered the sellers for long haul as well. But like let's talk about the shipping effects. So I basically, for anyone understanding here, is that the shipping effects on these cards is also based on the level of seller as well.
Correct.
So for like us, I believe you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Anything over $5 is basically free shipping, right?
It is free. It's not
right. So like for us, if anything you buy from us that ends up being over $5, there's literal zero shipping on it. Like we effectively eat that cost in every single sale over $5.
Correct.
Below $5.
So do I.
Yeah. So do most level 4 sellers because it does give you a competitive edge in listing, correct? Because like the way TC market price is, they're looking for, they're effectively looking for the lowest cost, like you said, of this 13 the total cost. So you see this 13.79 plus plus another 99 cents. So effectively that card is 14.79, 14.78, whatever. So like the low for it, even there is 14.7. It's really closer to $15 instead of being closer to $14 because the graph on the left is showing it's 13.80, but like it's not 13.80 because you have to pay the dollar shipping. So there's a lot of that going on, and there's a lot of hidden things that like people aren't really equating. So what are the other, because I know you love the numbers, right? We're gonna go big for this so we can have fun with this. I know that you love the other intricate cost of things. So give me like some of the background cost of things. I kind of wish you have them on your desk so you can show people some of these things.
I mean, it's different the buyer doesn't care about this, but
as a seller.
But I mean, like as a seller, top loaders have a cost. Sleeves have a cost. Sleeves, even like, and most people use penny sleeves like this. If you want to use like I have extra dragon shield sitting around and things like that, like that technically costs a little bit more money than that. Business cards have a cost. Envelopes have a cost.
He's got it all, guys. I
Padded
promise.
envelopes have even more of a cost. Tape has a cost. I mean, so you're basically talking about like, I mean, literally we've had sales where like somebody bought a single comic.
Right. So like just to put this in perspective, I didn't take a screenshot of this or anything, but like a single Jafar, which is the Wicked Sorcerer, right? Yeah. Single Jafar Wicked Sorcerer, who is a 9-cent common. That's it. That's the sale, guys.
Right. So you know if they pay the 99 cents, like you spend close to 99 cents in supplies and making sure the card get there. And that I'm sorry. I forgot the massive one, which is postage.
Right.
Which is
well, that
and
literally the cost of actually printing an invoice.
Oh yeah. Printing an invoice, printing labels here.
The cost of the paper in general, like there's just so many little intricate things that come into it that when you start really going into it, it gets insane. And this is where I'm coming with Scott. So the moment that we got a little bit behind in sales, and then I literally had to take a case and then just start selling out of this case of a box just to help Scott get caught up, I had very quickly realized, like, Scott, I spent $100 in shipping. Like, just like literally in 2 days, it was just like I spent $100 on just stamps, envelopes, like the stamper. We didn't even talk about the weird stampers. We got stampers,
multiple stampers. And that makes things cheaper. Stampers make things cheaper, but I have multiple stampers.
It's
I got a scale too. I got a scale.
Yeah, I bought those. I bought those last week.
Like, I mean,
it really does get crazy, and it really does add up. And it's just like, just so you guys understand, like the actual like cost of even being a seller, which I think is going to play into some of our slides coming up here. But it's just a lot of little intricate things that goes into why even shipping at $1 is like being generous realistically, because you're cutting into a certain level of your profits,
which these low sellers that are only coming in and selling my legendaries, my super rares, anything over $10, like whatever. I mean, that's more power to them. Like, don't get me wrong. They are willing to reduce the price on the high price cards because all that stuff is irrelevant. I mean, like when you sell on eBay, for example, you can print out a label directly from eBay and you pay less shipping than you do at USPS, which I mean, granted, we do the same thing. Don't get me wrong. Right. But they're willing to do that for their one single card as opposed to like, here, take my 50 comments for $8. Like, like it's a lot different as to how you're selling. And I appreciate that, but that's why you see so many people with such little rating and so few sales. And they're the ones that have the low price. Again, like that price isn't going to exist. And if you do wind up buying a ton of cards from that one single person, there's a good chance they're going to catch up real quick to like, wow, look at all the shipping I have to pay for.
Right. All right, so let's discuss this this next section here. It's called Lorcana Singles Market again, and we have card quality versus card rarity. I'll just read it off for everyone real quick. It's many rares going above legendary prices, many super rares going barely good for uncommon prices, and what are the reasons? So why is it turning out that the cost of commons and uncommons seem to be above, like legitimately some commons are above the cost of even legendaries? Like what is going on with that equation?
So, I mean, it's a pure quality versus rarity thing. So, I mean, and you see this in other games as well. Like, a good card is a good card. And given where we are right now with Lorcana, the supply of every single card, no matter its rarity, is low. So, I mean, if you look at our 5,000 count box right now, I literally have more copies of certain super rares and rares than I do of certain commons. Right this second, of course. I mean, I used to have more of them. But, like, if you were to ask me right this second, how many do I have of each? There are certain ones that I have. The distribution, and I think you made a Twitter post about this. Like you're just not getting a ton of a single card. Right. So like are there more commons? Yes. Are there more uncommons? Yes. But you're not necessarily getting an equal distribution of them. And like if you look at rares, for example, there's 48 rares. So like I'm getting just as many. I don't know, name it.
If it's not broke.
Right. I'm getting just as many if it's not broke as I am
be prepared.
Little Lilo and Maui and things like that. So it's like, and everybody wants the good cards. Right. So they immediately sell out. And then you're left with the junk. And it's like, yeah, you sell it eventually, who cares? But like it's the value of it is so much less. And the demand for those rares has to drive the price up because there just isn't enough of it out there.
Right.
And once people are out of it, they're out of it. There as of right now, there's just no restocking. So like
Right.
basically what you wind up having is the quality of the rares index is above the legendaries at times. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the legendaries are just bad, just like some of the rares are just bad. But like a good card in general, it doesn't really matter right this moment what its rarity is, because people are not opening 50 cases to have like, you know, a stack of rares versus a littler stack of legendaries. Like it's just not happening. Like they literally have what they have. And again, their relative stacks are still like this, but their selling cards are not.
Right.
And so it really doesn't matter to the seller. They're willing to pay more for the cards they need. And that may change over time, but I just feel like what's still going to happen is the bad legendaries are going to continue to go down, and the good rares, I mean, they'll go down as more supply happens, but they're still going to be above where they are now.
Right. I'm trying to bring up that Twitter post real quick because I there was a lot of confusion on it, and it was mostly my own fault, and it didn't help that I didn't respond to anybody for like 6 hours. So I'm going to add that to the stream real quick just so we can take a look at it. So now what I meant in this post is kind of what Scott said. Like, so I was opening cases at a time, right? Shout out to the person just gave us a notification. So you're in 4 boxes, right? We opened 4 sealed cases from this weekend. And in those cases, the averages that I was seeing was 8 to 12 of a common, 4 to 6 of an uncommon, 2 to 4 rares, 0 to 4 SRT, 0 to 2 legendary, and 0 to 2 enchantments. And like what that meant specifically is no, it wasn't, oh, I only got 2 legendaries in a case. It's like, no, I may have only got 2 bells in a case, or 2 Rapunzels, or 2 Gontus, like whatever it was. It was like that was the averages. But what it really meant was that I was only getting 8 of some commons. So like the very playable commons that are not included in the starter decks are just like, they're just more rare than you could ever possibly imagine. And we're going to talk about some of those things shortly. But when you really look at the distribution here in front of you for a given card, you have to understand that people are spending $600+ on
MSRP.
cases.
That's
right.
MSRP.
That's just MSRP, right? $600 plus on cases. And in all honesty, in that case, they may have gotten 4 of an uncommon.
Yep.
Like, which means you can't even cross them across like multiple decks. They may not have even gotten a playset of a given rare. They definitely didn't get a playset of a given legendary, most likely. So it's like when you really start to encompass all those things, that's also another great reason why the prices of certain very good, very sought after cards are going to just continue to rise. And that was what I was trying to get a point across in this particular tweet that failed horribly in terms of
I knew what you meant.
I knew what I meant. The people on the internet did not know what I meant. So I apologize to you guys for all participating. And then what's worst is I tweeted that out at 10:30 in the morning while I was waiting for Scott to get to breakfast. And then I didn't look at Twitter for 6 hours.
Because we actually did play games this weekend too.
Yeah, we played in the starter deck event this weekend. Neither here nor there. All right. So, hey guys, if you're enjoying this finance video, it's really helping you out. If the information is solid and you truly are really enjoying it, do me a favor, do me the solid, hit that like button on the video, hit that subscribe button if you're not already, share with your friends, share this information, help us grow the community even further. Of course, if you're not, join the Discord, enter the room. Thanks you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the video. Now let's get back. So we have, do we miss anything on this particular here? We have,
you can just clearly see that these are 2 rares, and they're either close to or above the price of the legendary.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I think Scott and I can both agree that the cost of that particular legendary is probably too low. And if it's still that low, I recommend if you guys want 4 beasts to go buy them. I have a real good feeling they're going to end up going.
And this isn't the lowest legendary, and these aren't the highest rares. I just chose ones that would illustrate the point, not even being the extremes.
Right. He could also illustrate the point with a common, which I think we're going to get into in a second here.
Right.
All right. So talk to me about our graph, right? You've been bringing up.
I redid the graph.
We redid the graph, which is great. So we have a couple different things here now. It looks like you added some more stuff. Is that what's going on? I didn't like fully look at this. We'll make it big screen. So talk to me about what's going on this page.
So you can ignore the axis on the right hand side. It's just numbers for illustrative purposes to make the graph. So where we're at right now, we're at LGS release. We're at the step going back up, which is essentially now, which is the 25th, leading up to the big box release. So this is exactly what has happened and what I predicted to happen. So LGS release happens, people get prize packs, etc. As we talked about earlier, prices drop, supply increases. Now those people are out of supply. I've only seen a couple dealers that I know of actually be able to restock their product over the past few days. So the ability to restock is just not happening. So I believe the prices will slowly go up over the next week. Again, keep in mind, I look at these things on a day-by-day basis. I understand most of you are not looking at these things on a day-by-day basis or may already see it after the fact, but I can tell you the next week prices are going to increase as supply is reduced because there's just no way to restock product. Then the big rocks release happens. Now, what you need to understand about the next things is we don't actually know what's going to happen. What I do know is going to happen is simply more product is going to be released into the wild in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Which
means prices will reduce. Because again, you're going to have a situation where new people come into the market, both from a player perspective and from a seller perspective and or seller player perspective. So there's just more of it out there. So less people need product because they're actually able to get it. That reduces prices, less demand, and then more supply from people that want to sell it. So on the first, regardless of how much is out there, regardless of how much, I don't care if your target sells out in 10 minutes. I don't care if Best Buy is pretty much already sold out. It sold out while I was in the mob at Gen Con. So like, I don't care how much you're actually able to get on the first. There's just simply going to be more of it out there. So prices will be reduced. I expect game stores to have people camped at the big box stores in order to fill their demand as well. So it'll seem like your LGS gets more also, but they really just bought it from a big box store. So prices will reduce, but then they'll go back up again. And that's exactly what happens. It goes down, then it goes back up until there's more restock. Now, will there be an LGS restock? Personally, I have heard multiple conflicting stories about what is going to happen in September with LGS restock. I've heard the 8th. I've heard later in the month. I've heard the middle of the month. I've heard double my allocation. I've heard half my allocation. I've heard equal to my allocation. I've heard only booster boxes, no troves, no gift sets, no etc. I've seen literally any type of combination of any of these things you want to put together. So I don't know what the answer is. What I do know is there's more products going to be there, more products going to flow. That's all I know, but the quantity is completely unknown.
Right.
But it's going to happen sometime in September. And is it going to happen again before the second set, before ever again? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it, but I have no idea. If you read like the Ravensburger article by the CEO and try to interpret what he said in his CEO speak, like chances are it's not going to happen again before the second chapter's out. So like whenever that second LGS restock happens, I also assume there has to be a second big box restock. Also, I'm not positive, but like I have to assume there's going to be one. So at that point, it just becomes like that would be like the last stock that's out there. And at that point, prices will level off, which could mean they go up because now there's no more supply to be had. That's all there is to it. Right. Or there is a steady trickle from then, but I doubt it. Like at some point, we're going to reach the end of the first chapter being available. There's nothing else we can do about it.
Right, and specifically, it's because we are not certain whatsoever if there will be a restock to big box stores. Right, like there's no indication of that from any source that I have seen so far. We're definitely also not confident that stores are also going to get a third wave. Right, like we know they're going to get a second wave. We don't know how much they're going to get of a second wave, but we have no idea if they're going to get a third wave. So as far as we're concerned, by like the second week of October, most, if not all product will have already been purchased and either opened, collected, sealed away in someone's closet, or opened and put into the singles market. Agreed. But after that point, we have no idea what's going to happen. So like, just literally no idea. If you're in the singles market, if you can get whatever product you can get on September 1st, go ham, get what you can get, figure out very quickly what you're going to need to finish off, and then start purchasing literally as quickly as possible. Because the longer we get from September 1st until LGS goes, the price is just going to keep going. It's just going to keep rising. So
right.
Just tips from us, guys. Tips from us.
So it's momentary dips and then rising back up to an equilibrium is the way it's going to go.
Right. All right. So talk to me about the biggest movers. Some of these are like probably really upsetting to Scott. Specifically the cat. But we covered it a little bit here, but like why specifically these cards?
So I chose 4 different rarities. I did not put a super rare on here because they're pretty much, their prices are so weird that it's hard for me to even figure them out. So what has happened is the Pixelborn quote metagame is out there. I mean, you can choose whether or not you agree with it or not, but it is influencing how people feel the power level of certain cards is. And so there are a lot of actual like events that are happening in a relatively short period of time, more quickly than people are prepared for. Not in terms of like owning cards, but in terms of just getting used to playing the game.
Right.
So you have a lot of first-time players that are just not used to playing the game, and so they're immediately like, okay, what deck can I play? They go out to YouTube, they find certain people that are using Pixelborn, etc. They look at the stats that are out there, and they find Amber, Emerald aggro, they find Ruby, Amethyst control, and various other decks. And so as a result of that, these 4 cards specifically are way higher than they were on August 18th.
Yeah.
So Lilo Making a Wish is like easily 2 to 3 times her value on August 18th.
Right.
She's hovering over $20. My girl Maleficent Monster Dragon, I'm happy to report. I mean, of course, the thing you need to understand is like coming out of Gen Con, there was a market for legendaries, of course.
Right.
And there was not a huge market because you had to be on eBay for like a single rare.
Right.
So I put, play sets of rares out there and they sold, but like it was very difficult to find a single rare. So I'm comparing these to a lot of times to the prices that there were on eBay ahead of time. So Maleficent's Monster Dragon was going for about like $30 to $32 on the pre-sales on the eBay actual sales,
right,
pre-launch, and now she's easily over $50 or $60 if you can find her. Cheshire Cat is an uncommon. It's just an insane price. I cannot keep them in stock at all. I literally have 2 left after opening
about maybe slightly over 30 boxes of product.
33 boxes, if not more, if you include sealed product, etc., like starter decks and things like that.
Right.
I cannot keep them in stock as like a $4 uncommon. That's just insane.
And this card is not in starter decks, correct?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So it's just another thing to note here. Like, obviously, the rare, the legendary, these particular ones are not here, but the Cub and the Cheshire Cat are not in starter decks, which is a big reason why their influx is really there.
As far as I know, and I don't quote me on this, there's only 2 commons that are not in any starters, which are both Simbas.
Both Simbas.
Commons wise, that are not in any starters. So that's a big reason why both Simbas are way up in value. But this Simba, like I have never seen this in my life. I've never seen a common happen like this. I know everyone knows I hate Cheshire Cat. I don't think it's a good card. I think you should be running 4 of whatever the other 2 lore character is in your deck. But
shout out to Heath.
I don't even think there is a. I mean, yeah, there is. You play 4 of the Mickey and 2 Cheshire Cat.
Shout out to Heath.
But yes, people know I hate Cheshire Cat because it's just not a flexible card.
Doesn't matter.
Right. Because, I mean, in my opinion, again, it's not in the starter, so like it's harder to get.
Right.
But the Simba Cub is just insane. I mean, like I've seen him go like for multiple dollars as a common, which is just ridiculous.
Right.
But he's arguably the best common in the game, and he's not in the starter. So like you need to, like, a lot of decks need him. I can't imagine ever running Amber without him, no matter whether an aggro deck or a control deck. So there's that. But I will say in general, there is information scarcity out there. I mean, we talked about it at length, like, not that we're like the only YouTuber out there, but we haven't put a video out in like a week that has anything to do with any kind of competitive play at all. I called this ingenuity scarcity. People just want to net deck and don't have time to they don't have the cards and the time or the ability they haven't played the game long enough.
Well, not even that. Honestly, if you even just put it in a moment, right? Like if we just discuss the finance part of it again, is like if cards are this hard to find and people have we're going to talk about this in the next segment, but like there's already 1Ks going on. There's already events going on. There's already local scenes going on. Like, so if they're going to spend money, they don't want to be wrong.
Right.
So the information that's out there, whether it's 100% accurate or inaccurate, it doesn't really matter. It's like, well, there's a proof of concept. And because of the proof of concept, they're like, well, at least if I buy this, I know that I can work with it. And that's another reason why you're seeing cards again, like Maleficent and like Lilo out of nowhere, just going off the charts, because everyone will tell you that like if you're playing an Amber Rush deck, like you need 4 Lilos. If you're playing a Ruby control deck, you need 3 or 4 Maleficents. So like, and this is across the board for many cards in this like in the spectrum. These are just four examples here, but the best cards are just going to continue to grow because more and more people are buying singles. Legitimately, there's just not enough of them. Like there's actually not, like, even if you think about it, like I can't really give an accurate statement of how many players there are in Disney Lorcana currently. What I can tell you, if you go to TCG Player or eBay, you might have less than 15 of a given legendary.
Yep.
So like when you really think about that, however many players are out in the world, it's like if there's only 15 copies of it to be purchased on TCG Player, that's not enough. Like it's not enough.
Agreed.
All right. So the biggest drops, right? Everyone loves that. How do you do, fellow? How you doing, Manny? So some of this is shocking, but for different reasons, I feel. Now, granted, in the last finance video, you mentioned that Brave Little Taylor was the hotness. So why is he no longer the hotness?
Because he's not that good.
Probably very true.
I just don't. I think he's easily replaceable by better cards like Elsa, even Ursula. Anything with 3 lore is not that far from what he can do, and he doesn't have an immediate effect on the board. So I still see decks that play a lot of him in the control matchups, and I still see I guess he still shows up in like Emerald, Ruby evasive decks, but overall I think he's just not a necessary card, and compared to the other legendaries, I just don't think he's as good. So that's why he's dropping those. I mean, he was going for $75 on eBay pre-launch sales.
Yeah, like
now you can get him. Now I think sold one for $25 today.
Yeah, between that Gen Con and release, like he was literally topping around $75, $80.
Yeah, he was the number 1 card in the set right post Gen Con, and now I don't even think he's in the top half of the legendaries or cards in general. Definitely cards in general, but I mean he's above cards in general, but like legendaries, he might not even be in the top half.
Fair. So a card like John Silver. Now this is a card that when you read it, it's pretty good, does a lot of good stuff, works out pretty well, but in terms of a competitive aspect, I don't think it's really found a home yet. And a lot of the times, competitive scene is going to drive sales. Like we just covered that again, but it's a repeatable thing here. So people aren't going on the internet and finding John Silver decks. So you think that that's like just a dramatic cause and effect there?
Totally. And again, you have the situation where somebody opens this like, I've never heard of this character before. He's a legendary. I got to sell it. Oh, it's $10. Fine. Go on.
Right.
And this was, again, post Gen Con, like easily a $25, $30 card.
Right. And then why Genie?
So this is both the enchanted effect and, again, similar to John Silver, like just no home. You have a 6 cost uninkable where, like, yes, he may show up in certain versions of the deck, but like this was a pre-selling $20 to $25 super rare, and now he's like $5.
Okay.
So,
okay. Interesting. Yeah. If you're hanging out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Thank you guys for all joining out. There's a bunch of you right now. I'm excited. But let's talk about something that we've covered at nauseum at this point. Enchantments, and then we'll go to the foil conversation. But Enchanted in general. Now, we're gonna go personal again here, guys. I opened 3 sealed cases in a row, which is 12 boxes. There was no enchantments.
So sad.
It's very sad, guys. Very, very sad. So let's talk about it. Tell me about the enchantment and foil ratios and aspects that you're starting to see a little bit.
So, I mean, the reported ratio is 1 per case, but apparently the way they're not packing the material correctly, or not correctly, but they're not forcing these cards into each case. For example, they're just saying the chances of getting them is 1 in every 96 boxes. So
96 packs.
96 packs. Sorry. So what that means is, can you get a case with multiples? Yes, and that means probably somebody else didn't get one, because there's just they're not. Yeah, and he bought them from the same store we did, so he got one of our enchantments. Exactly. Like, that's exactly what happens, because they're not forcing the pack. And I don't know if Magic does this, but I have heard that they do. Like, they force certain rarities
in a particular type of booster pack.
Right.
They do it.
Right. Well, Lorcana isn't doing that. So therefore the chances of getting them is X, usually 1 per case, but it does not mean that you're going to get one in every case you open.
Right.
So what you're seeing again is a luck factor. People open them and they're like, oh my God, I got this golden ticket, I'm selling it. So the prices overall have obviously come down from the post-Gen Con pricing, but there's still room for them to go down. I still wouldn't purchase them yet until after September 1st for any player, because they're only going to be able to come down. So is this an opportunity to buy them? Maybe, if you can find them at a price that you're comfortable with. And are people dumping them? Yes. I do believe, however, like the meta staple ones will continue to hold value. So your Tinkerbells, your Bells, your Maui, your Aladdin, especially your Elsa. So especially your Elsas and Bells should maintain good value, and everything else will probably go down like big time.
Right.
Will they be under $100? I don't know. But I wouldn't.
Rather than would, right? Like, the question that I have is, should they be under $100?
The one thing we haven't really talked about at all in this whole entire conversation is what stores are charging for product right now. Correct. So it's very hard for me to say that a store should be charging $10 a pack and any card in it should be worth under $100 when it's 1 per case. I mean, that basically at $10 a pack means you're spending almost $1,000 on a case. Right. So how can you have a card that's hard to get and it be under $100? I can't fathom. Those things just don't go in concert with one another. Right. Now, in the long run, if big box stores do get a ton of it, and it does replace your ability to have to spend that much money, and you can get a ton at MSRP, then it becomes an issue we talked about at length of playability versus rarity. At that point, if I don't want that Mickey in my deck, or I don't want either of them, or I don't want, Stitch Surfer in my deck, in the meta in general, I'm talking like, and when I say me, I mean like the player base doesn't want that card in their deck. Right. Then yeah, I mean, like it's just a lack of demand situation. Right. But if a deck with Elsa or Belle becomes the number 1 deck in the game, they're going to rise in value. Right. And they're going to be worth multiple $100s. Like, there's just no doubt about it. And we're not even talking about the grading factor either. I've seen some of them out there that are graded. I think it's really premature to go down that route. Again, you have to understand that while these things seem limited, they're not technically limited. A Musketeer Mickey from Gen Con, there will never be any more of those. Right. A D23 card, there will never be more of those. So, like, literally, the supply is capped and demand is what takes over. These are technically, the demand may rise and fall depending on playability, but the supply of it is not, it's not unlimited, but it's not limited either.
It's also not reserved.
Right.
So, like, we can get to, I don't know, February of next year, and Ravensburg might legitimately say, okay, we're just going to like give all the stores another wave of chapter 1.
And that's going to happen from a distributor level, no doubt.
Right.
Because it happens with every game. Like they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I have like 10 boxes of Lorcana. Do you want it? No one's going to say no. Exactly. Even like 6 months from now, no one's gonna be like, yeah, I don't need chapter 1 anymore. That's not going to happen. So I don't think box prices will ever go below MSRP.
I would be astonished if they did. So I guess my follow-up, just to give my point of view on it, like the Enchanted for me, since we know for sure, at least at this time, that purchasing a case does not guarantee you getting an enchanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with that alone, right? Like with that assessment, you can't even bet on it, right? So like as a seller, right? And this is just like across the board for all singles dealers, you can price out things with a certain level of knowledge. So with that, with the Twitter post I shared earlier, the certain level of I know I'm going to get this many of a common, I know I'm going to get that many of an uncommon, of a rare, of a secret rare, or sorry, of a super rare or legendary. Like that statistic exists.
Yep.
There is no proven statistic at this point at all for this card. I'm sorry. Like all the crap you're hearing on the internet, it's all bullshit, because the only way that you could ever be positive about it is if you could secure it within a case. Now, if someone can tell me like in a master case, which we don't even know exactly what that is for what it's worth. It could be 4 cases, it could be 5 cases, it could be 6 cases. We don't actually even know how many cases are in like a quote master case, or for what it's worth, even if that exists.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a store owner. I didn't talk to a store owner about it. I don't know how it was delivered to them. For all I know, they got, if they got 100 boxes and they got 20 cases, and that was the answer, right? I don't have the answer to that. But until there's an actual statistical fact of this many boxes equates to this many enchanteds, we're never going to know exactly how many there are, or even be able to truly guess how many they are. So for me, if you're opening that card right now, there's not a chance in hell I'm selling it for less than $100.
It's fair.
And that's just the way I look at it. And even the long-term factor of it, the long-term factor is if we never get these answers, then it's like, I can't put a fair price on this. I can probably only put unfair prices on it. Or I can put a price on it where I'm like, I'm happy with selling it at this price. So if it goes up from here, it doesn't matter. But in my humble opinion, that price should never be below $100. That's my thought on it. So let's talk about the foils, right? and
Sure.
I'm not even sure. I didn't even ask you this, right? But
they're unsorted. I can tell you that.
They're unsorted. Okay, great. Anyway, that just answered my question. So for us, we announced a little bit earlier ago. We opened about 33 boxes of a product
since Gen Con.
Since Gen Con, right? So not since release, since Gen Con. So a couple weeks now,
including Gen Con.
Including Gen Con. So we have it's only 24 foils in a box, right? Can't get no more than 24 foils in a box.
Correct.
So whatever that number is times whatever, I don't feel like doing the math. A couple hundred foils that we own. We haven't even listed them on our own store yet.
Correct.
Now, aside from they're apparently not sorted correctly, why haven't we listed them?
Mostly because they haven't sorted. But also I believe I just believe they're undervalued.
Right. So now, why are they undervalued?
Because of Magic.
Okay.
I believe they're undervalued because of the ratio of regular card to foil that exists in Magic. They're basically selling at the same ratio of Magic. So in Magic, you have packs that literally have like multiple foils in them, so the price is automatically reduced. They just aren't as rare. And also, I think Magic has full art, foil, blah blah blah, etch. Yeah. I don't know what the hell even half of them are.
Expedition. There's so many that it's ridiculous.
Years. So
even if you knew what they all were, there would be a new set that came out like literally yesterday that had some new one.
Right. So the regular foil ratio of a $10 card has a $15 foil is common in Magic. But that foil is less rare than it is in Lorcana.
Right.
So and you also have a larger player base, obviously, in Magic currently there that wants to bling out their deck. And
right.
I think I've only talked to a few players that are really looking to do that immediately in Lorcana.
We literally had a message about it actually, which I thought was interesting.
So I'm not counting myself, of course. So I just think the demand just isn't there yet. And again, you have a situation where, oh my God, I opened this foil, whatever, even rare, legendary, super rare. I gotta get rid of it right away because, I mean, really, if you think about it, I don't even, as we've said, because I haven't sorted the cards yet, I haven't factored at all the foil into my pricing at all as to how much, profit loss, etc. So if someone opens one, they're like, whatever, I own this card, I'm going to get rid of it. Like the same person that's listing the legendary cheap is going to list the foil cheap. Like, they don't care. Like, it's free money to them.
Right.
So
it's not free, but it's in quotations free.
Right. I mean, like the foil to them is not factoring into the other whatever 12 cards that are in the pack. So
11, but yeah.
But I really do blame Magic, to be honest with you, with the ratio of regular price to foil. I just think it's too low right now. And unfortunately, a lot of the way card pricing happens is like card pricing has a very long memory.
Mm-hmm.
So until we see tournament results where cards that are undervalued right now start to see play, these prices will hold a memory. So if a foil legendary is only going for, if a regular legendary is going for 50 and its foil version is literally going for 75, like until that card is an absolute 4 of and enough people want to bling out their deck to play that, it's going to stay at $75. It's just the way things happen. And like, it's probably only going to go down again on the same curve as everything else. Right. But in my opinion, like I would rather spend the 1.25 to 1.5 to get a foil version of a card than just spend the one time to get a regular card, for me personally. I think foils are undervalued, if you ask me. Right.
So, and by what Scott means by this, I'm going to bring this back here, right? So if we go to a whole new world, really simple. The reason why it has a quote memory is there's actually a log of it. Like you can literally go and you can look at the sales history, and we can see here that foil whole new worlds are selling at $19.99, right? So four of these sold at $19.99. Like it's an actual point of reference here. Now, what I could do if I really wanted to is I can go into our sales and tell you that we sold regular versions at $19.99.
Yep.
So the concept of these listers selling their foils at the cost of what we're selling our regular ones is a hell of a good reason of why we're not selling the foils, because I just, there's no way that you can convince me that they're the same, right? Like they're just not the same. So I think that Scott made a very, very clear point. Like some of these things and having the point of reference is great. But you also have to understand from the seller's point of view and everything like that, like where a lot of those sales are very likely that people just got their hand on product and said, oh, I'm just going to move everything because I'm just looking to like make my money plus.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of those honestly, it's where Scott has references many times in previous videos. It's a race to the bottom. People are literally just racing to the bottom to move everything because they want to move past it, and they don't really care about the ramifications of all of it. And then the normal everyday person has this ability to go and look at that log and say, oh, well, this is what it sold for, so obviously this is what it's worth. And it's like, it's not necessarily true, which I really do find is interesting. So before we move on to our next segment, I do want to give an opportunity here for anyone that has a question on the finance stuff that we either just carried or even something maybe that's moving forward. Your chance to have the floor. I'll add you to the comment list, and we'll move forward with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start it off. And Scott, I have a question for you, right?
Sure.
So we talked a little bit earlier about the entire process of, what our week looked like as sellers, as two people with like literally full-time jobs that like had, I think Scott's wife said it very well the other day. Shout out to Gina. Scott literally was coming home from work and going to work. That's literally what was happening. So were you at all okay? Oh man, I'm trying to think of like the best way to answer this. Ask this question is like, what was your expectation on Friday? Like we knew that the pre-sales were going to go live at midnight. We told everybody about it, that our store was going live. Like, did it meet or exceed your expectation on Friday morning when you woke up?
I listed 50 of every common, 25 of every uncommon. I did not open 50 of every common at Gen Con or 25 of each uncommon. I just expected with the other product that we were getting on Friday and the weekend that I'd be able to fill those orders immediately without a problem. I did not fill them immediately without a problem. I have filled every order that's come in. Trust me.
Yes.
But the point is, it has well exceeded my expectations. Did I think I would sell 50 of a common? No. Did I think I would sell 50 of a common to the same person on Saturday morning? No. But that happened. And it's not just people buying out, because like I can't imagine some of these that I sold 50 of the same person you would ever want. Like I just can't fathom how that's even possible. So the volume has just well exceeded my expectations, just completely exceeded my expectations. And we were relatively prepared. I mean, like we had a 5,000 count box completely sorted, which, given the other games that you now have of what we've sold in the past, it was a hell of a lot more organized than those were, wasn't it? So like it is well exceeded my expectations. I'm happy I'm not just happy for myself. I'm happy for players that they are buying product the correct way. They're seeking out what they actually want, as opposed to just overpaying for sealed product and then hoping they get what they want.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about it logically, like they're still paying less money to buy singles, and they're getting them at decent values overall compared to the sealed prices. And I'm glad that they're taking advantage of that. But this is well exceeded my expectations.
Now, I don't have it in front of me, and I apologize to the person, but someone on Facebook, on Twitter this week posted a synopsis, basically, of a summary of what the average cost of like the quote competitive decks in the game were. And I think the top one was like $595 or something like that. Like,
yeah, but I've already talked to him.
Okay, I'm not saying it's completely accurate, right?
Yeah,
that's not the comment I'm trying to make here. But the point is that if you could get for $600, quote, one of the best decks in the game, right?
Yep.
What I've already told you is that you're not going to do that by buying a case of cards, which is over $600. And on top of that, in some areas, I've seen people list. You can't get it. B, if you can get it, it's 60, 70, 80, 100% above MSRP.
Yep.
So like when you start really doing the math and you're like, well, I could either spend $1,000 on 4 boxes and like still have to buy singles.
Right.
Like you're still gonna have to buy singles.
You won't get 4 of the legendaries, so definitely.
No, you're not gonna get 4 of an SRT. You're not even gonna get 4 of a rare, maybe. Like in all honesty, like you might not get that, right? Like it's possible. Unlikely, but possible. Once you start realizing those things, like the singles prices actually seem incredible, because you're like, well, I can get like the whole deck I won for like $400 maybe, because I gambled on certain deals on certain markets that like didn't have any set, whatever. Like it risk versus reward, no matter which way you look at it. So it doesn't shock me at all in hindsight, right? Like in the moment, I was like, yeah, I don't think it's going to be that crazy because the prices are going to be ridiculous. We don't really know how much product's going to even be out there. We don't know how many sellers are even going to be, because leading up to that point, there was only like 3 or 4 sellers on TCG Player, because they were the only brick and mortar stores that were allowed to pre-sell.
Right.
And I imagine I didn't ask, I could have asked. I didn't ask, but I could have asked, our friends and said, hey, what did your pre-sales look like? Because from our point of view, if we were sold out of stock on certain cards, like literally within 48 hours, I have to imagine those pre-sale prices were ridiculous. Yep. I have to imagine that they probably were sold out, and like we weren't monitoring, like we didn't monitor them or anything like that. But I imagine that some of those things were pre-sold completely out of stock before it even went live.
It seems like some have, compared to those prices that I recognize,
which is crazy. All right, so we must have done a really good job. No one else asked anything in stream. That's fine. If you can ask something later, we'll have time for it later. But oops.
Go on.
I didn't want to lose Scott. If you did enjoy this particular segment on the finance, we're not done in the live stream, but you can check out you can join our Discord, ask us any question you want, check out the Patreon, check out the Pro Store. Yes, that is a QR code that will take you directly to our Pro Store. And Scott, for everyone at home, can we discuss just for a moment here, like what the Pro Store means for us, and why, if you are going to purchase product from us, why I would really love it if you use the Pro Store?
Selling on TCG Player isn't cheap.
Correct.
having a pro store isn't cheap, but if you buy directly from our pro store, TCG Player just takes less of a cut. So we would appreciate it if you buy directly off our pro store.
So like, not telling anyone to go buy our product. You don't have to. But if
you are going to buy from us, please buy at the pro store.
If you're gonna buy from us, please buy from the pro store.
And I guarantee our prices are competitive. Guaranteed. And if they're not,
as of 6 p.m. today, they were as competitive could be, I believe.
Yes.
And I have been tracking this. I'm going to give everyone a number at the end of this of how many sales that went on just during the live stream. Nonetheless,
I see 7 more since I've logged off. So.
There we go. My watch has been going crazy around around the clock. I hope you guys enjoyed the finance video today. We covered as many topics as we could and even allowed for more comments. However, in the comments below, feel free, hit me up, let me know any financial questions that you're curious about, and we'll do our best to either A, answer them on the spot or cover them in our next finance video. Thank you guys so much for watching today. If you're looking for other finance videos like this, we have a whole playlist on Finance 501. Check it out there, and I will see you guys in the next video.